Thinking about buying a used boat and you want to check out some online listings? Well, before you dive too deep into that, I got a couple of things to keep in mind. If you are in the market to maybe move up in size of a boat, or you want a boat with more amenities or extra engines or whatever it is, unless you have a specific boat in mind, maybe a boat in your marina or something that you'd seen on the water that you thought, well, boy, that's a nice boat, I would like to maybe buy one of those. If so, fair enough. But if not, maybe do some traveling around, looking at go to different marinas or even boat shows and get a heads up for the idea, at least, of the kind of boat that you want. Now, once you have a general idea of the kind of boat that you think that you want, or the kind of amenities or the features that that boat would have, is try to focus in on a specific model or two or three. Now, you guys know that I'm a sucker for Sea Rays, having 6 of them over the years so far. When we sold our first one, the 24 footer, we wanted to move up to the next size up, which was a 25 or 26 foot boat, and that's the range that we were looking at. So I kind of zeroed in on looking at either the Sea Ray 250s or the Sea Ray 268s, which was the preferred boat, the one that we ultimately ended up buying. Now, this was going back to the early 2000s, way back to the early 2000s. And as a matter of fact, it was 2001 when we actually ultimately found the boat that we were going to buy, the 268 Sundancer. And at that point, there was little to no online listings for a used boat. So you couldn't just, open the browser, get out your smartphone, because they weren't even invented yet. You young kids, honestly.
When I was your age, I had to walk 20 miles just to get to school.
So we had to rely on print publications. And I'm going to give you a little bit of insight. Even though I knew the boat, generally what I was looking for, I knew what a 250 Sundancer or 268 Sundancer, the vintage that we were in, I knew what it looked like. So we found one that was listed, and I'm pretty sure it was listed as, it was advertised as a 250 Sundancer. Called the guy, arranged to go look at it, drove an hour and a half, got there, and when we got there, typical of our used boats buying experiences, and I think this is where it all started, was even though I was talking to the guy on the phone, he couldn't come out of his house for whatever reason. He was too busy, whatever. Plus, he had a German Shepherd dog, a big, mean-looking dog that was running around outside and barking. And so, I phoned the guy. I said, please do me a favor. Can you get this dog away? Because I want to get out of the car and go up to the boat.
Do you understand? I understand. Why are you shouting?
No problem. He's friendly. He's not going to bother you. I said, well, if somebody can come down and get this dog, get it away from the boat, I'll come out and look at the boat. So I think he sent one of his kids out or whatever, grabbed the dog, took it inside. No problem. So I got out, went up to the boat. Lo and behold, this was not a 250 Sundancer. It wasn't not a 268 Sundancer. It was a 220 Sundancer, which is considerably smaller than what we had in mind, and considerably different than the listing that he had for the boat. Again, Boat Trader back in the day, you had a black and white photo that was about that big. So, you're flipping through and there was like 9 listings per page. So, yeah, that's a nice looking boat. So, again, you take the person on their word to say what you are proposing in your listing, your sales stuff, was to be true. So if the guy is saying it was a 250 Sundancer and it wasn't, yeah, that was experience number 1. So always be, if you can, try to get as much information before you waste your time going out to look at a boat. So to finish up that long, boring story, when I got out of the car, went up to the boat, and saw, as I'm approaching it, it's like, no, this boat is smaller than the one we just sold, but they all looked the same back then. They were just like this size, that size, that size. They all had the same shear line. They all looked from a distance as a similar type of boat to the untrained eye, because remember, this was at the very, very beginning of our boating journey down the Sea Ray Road. So I phoned the guy and I said, this boat is not a 250. Oh yeah, sure it is. I said, I'm standing right in front of it, and there's a decal on the I think it was the port side of the hull. It says 220. I said, this boat's only a 220. I climbed up the ladder a little bit to look inside the cockpit. I said, no, this is not a 250. It's a 220.
But I
corrected them, sir.
And the guy just, whatever. I thought it was a 250. Thanks for your time, man. Not interested. And that was the end of that. So yeah, this is clearly a pattern of people, I don't want to say misrepresenting the boats that they're trying to sell, but not being 100% factual with the details. So that was a big frustration. Ultimately, we were lucky enough to find that 268 Sundancer. Got a good deal on it. We had it for a couple of years. We really enjoyed it. Did a lot of traveling, and we moved on with our boating journey. But word of caution, even though today on the interwebs where you can look at beautiful color photos, hopefully, of certain used boats, do yourself a favor. If you are interested in a 250 Sundancer, find out as much information as you can. And the good way to do that, in my opinion, is go on to these boat for sale websites and take a look at as many listings for that particular boat as you can find. And that way, as you're leafing through the internet pages, you can kind of get a better idea as to what the boat looks like before you even spend any time trying to communicate with the seller or going out to look at the boat. And the boat doesn't necessarily have to be in your backyard. So even if that listing that you're looking at online is not necessarily in your backyard, doesn't mean you necessarily have to get in the car and go look at it. However, if you look at a number of them over a period of time online, again, just say, this is the boat that I'm interested in. Look at as many as you can as possible, just to get a better, clearer idea and a vision in your mind as to what the boat looks like. And I guarantee what you're going to find is that if you do this over any length of time and you have reviewed many different listings of that particular model, make, model, and year, you are guaranteed to find, let's say, discrepancies between boat to boat and seller to seller.
I mean, look at the finish.
Is something wrong with the finish?
So once you've educated yourself to that particular boat that you have your heart set on, hopefully, you will be able to spot potential irregularities between listings. Anchor Girl and I have looked at way too many used boats online. Now there's always time for another one. But anyways, where we'll look, and especially if you go to YouTube, and if it's a popular boat like a Sea Ray, where there's a number of different videos of that model boat, or at least what people are pushing as that model boat, it has become very easy for us to spot these, like I say, little discrepancies where we're looking at it and say, no, back up. No, that's not that boat. No, because let's go back to the last video, or, get out my phone and start flipping through a listing. No, that boat has that, whatever it is, that model engine, or the door swings this way and not that way. So this is why I say you'll probably be surprised to learn that there's a lot of boats that aren't marketed correctly, properly. Don't know why. Another thing that I have found over the years, that there's a lot of sellers, there's a lot of professional sellers that are not so professional, or at least not as professional as one would expect or hope that they are. Extension, those same unprofessional sellers, I don't think they are necessarily as familiar with a lot of the boats that they're trying to sell. I don't want to slag anybody, but if you are looking for a particular boat and you come across an organization a number of times, and you'll say to yourself, what is going on here with these videos, especially YouTube videos, where you're like, is this guy like brand new? Did he just buy a camera? And some of the quality is really poor, and they're doing a lousy job at marketing that product that they are hopefully going to sell. So maybe if there's any brokers out there who are watching this video, take a look at some of the videos that your team is putting out, or even the photos, and ask yourself, is that a product that I would be interested in looking at versus the one that's next in the playlist? Do you know what I'm saying? Again, I don't want to single anybody out, but there is a particular, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, especially myself. Most of their listings, their videos, I don't know. It's like their boss just said, yeah, go out with your phone or borrow your wife's phone and just take some videos and throw it up on YouTube. And it's crap. It's garbage. Like, please don't do that. I would rather not see those garbage videos than something a little bit more quality. And it doesn't have to be this grand production, right? It's just that some of these videos that you watch, especially if you like, ooh, hey honey, let's watch another YouTube video on this sea ray, and like, oh, another one just popped up, let's check it out. And, like, yay, it's fun to look at these these videos of these boats. And then you say, yeah, nice, oh, that's nice. And then you watch all of a sudden 2 or 3, there's just garbage videos, and it's like, oh, that kind of turns me off this boat, because the boat presents very poorly. It looks like crap. So again, you brokers that are out there trying to sell a boat, if you don't know how to do a YouTube video, and hold on, stand by. It is as simple as getting one of these things out, setting it to video, and also just video like this, go slow. The other thing is, you see these videos where there's just like, oh, galley, head, sink, outside, inside, canvas, engine room, boom, bow of the boat, and the videos are crap because you're like, whoa, I can't keep up with what they're saying.
Hey, because it's you.
In my not so humble opinion, is those guys and any broker would be just better off just taking a number of good still photos, click, and then put them all together in a video. It's easily enough done, as opposed to the ones that they're going and they're zooming in and zooming out and having to open every single drawer in the galley. I think everybody understands what a drawer does and how it operates.
Ooh, that's a bingo.
Like, say, if you are looking for a boat and you have your heart set on that particular model, and you say, oh, that's nice. Oh, we like, oh, honey, what do you like? That's a nice galley, eh? But then all of a sudden you see this crap one, you say, oh, man, this boat's been in salt water its whole life. It's decrepit and it's brutal and it's bad. Even if you don't like that boat, maybe you see a few of those that have a particular bad spot here or there, or the dash doesn't look like it's going to work well for you, or the galley is too small, or the engine room is too tight. Again, these are a lot of things that you can find out on your own by not even necessarily going to look at the boat, but looking at a lot of photos and hopefully some YouTube videos of those boats before you go to look at the boat. So when you finally determine that's the boat that you want to look at, you found that perfect listing online or 2 or 3, and you're going to go out and actually look at the boat, be prepared to see some stuff in person that did not necessarily present itself on the photos or the videos that you saw while you were searching for that boat. Do yourself a favor. I know a lot of brokers, a lot of salesmen will not necessarily show you what the inside of the fridge looks like, or the underside of the cushions. And I know I just said broker doesn't have to open every drawer in a video. However, when you go to look at the boat, maybe open every drawer, just see if they're all going to work properly. Look down in the engine room. Trust me, looking down the engine room will tell a huge story about the life of that boat. If the engine room looks decent, well maintained, cleanish at least, not wires or hoses hanging down or hose clamps broken off and sitting down the bilge, and at least that way that can show a little bit of pride and ownership, and I'm almost positive that that would translate into the rest of the boat. If whoever owned that boat was really careful about maintaining the boat, maintaining the mechanicals of it because they loved the boat or they wanted to have a good time on the boat, they would probably make sure that everything else on the boat, which is going to break because every boat has stuff that's going to break all the time. I've told you that many times over the years. But if the engine room presents well and clean and showing some pride of ownership, it will probably be the same throughout the boat. But again, do yourself a favor, look down the engine room, climb down on the engine room if you can, take a look in and around, look for oil spills and whatnot, look for rust or like any of those broken pieces that I just mentioned. And then as well, look underneath the cushions, especially in the cockpit, see if there's stuff growing on them or if they're rough or whatever. Look into the cabinets in the cockpit. Again, see if there's mold growing in there. See if there's any used parts in there, mechanical parts. Don't laugh. We've seen it in the past. I was like, ooh. We went and looked at a particular boat this past summer, a used boat, a Sea Ray, of course. And there was not only mechanical, like tune-up parts and little parts and boxes here, there, and all over, but there was manuals, mechanical manuals for that Mercruiser engine, open to page 11, sitting right there next to the parts on the floor. It's like, well, this boat's got a problem, and that guy was trying to fix it, and he didn't, and the boat was out of the water and hadn't even been launched this year. So again, a lot of that, you don't have to be necessarily a mechanic. You don't necessarily have to know everything there is to know about a particular boat, even though you should educate yourself as to what you can learn about that boat. You walk in and you see that, it's just like, this is just a debris field of broken expectations. So that's stay away from that boat. So in the galley, open the fridge, look inside, make sure it's not a total write-off, make sure there's no rust showing up. Open those drawers. Again, like I say, make sure that they operate correctly, make sure there's no spare parts in those drawers. Microwave, if it's equipped. Look at the air conditioner if you can get it. Again, if the boat is equipped with air conditioning, just take a look at that and just make sure it at least seems to be all there and not abandoned or run through the cycles. Everything else, look at cabinets. If there's curtains over the windows, just open them, just pull them back again. Look for mold and look if there's any rips or tears in there. If they are on some sort of a track, make sure they actually operate. Now, I know a lot of this stuff sounds incidental and maybe petty, but honestly, if you have a boat, you will have stuff that will break, or if it has broken, nothing is cheap to buy, or nothing is cheap to fix on a boat, or even parts, especially if it's an older boat. We've always looked at the late 90s, early 2000 vintage of Sea Ray boats. And some pieces are challenging to get. There's always a place that you probably can, but even the vinyl runners that are on the tracks for the curtains, if they break, you're going to be, you'll be hard pressed to find those pieces. Don't close them or don't open them, whatever. I mean, that's entirely up to you. But again, like I say, there's a lot of these little things. And even if you're not well versed on the mechanics or how things work, just try it. And if there's a problem, you can at least present that to the seller and say, who's responsible for that? I'm interested in the boat. I'm going to maybe make an offer, but before I do, let's clear off, if you're going to fix that, and if not, is that going to be reflected in the final price? Engine room, gauges, mechanical stuff, water pump. If there's a toilet in it, flush it. Flush it 2, 3, 4 times.
Do not go in there. Woo!
And listen, don't be embarrassed to do this stuff. Don't be embarrassed to flush the toilet or open the fridge door a few times and open the doors and the cabinets in the boat. Don't let emotions overwhelm you because like, oh, honey, it's a nice sunny day and the boat's in the water and oh, look at people are having a good time and having a couple of drinks in that boat over there. Put that to one side. Yes, visualize yourself enjoying that lifestyle and maybe on that boat you come and look at, but be realistic as well. Because once you sign on the dotted line, you buy that boat and you take it home or you take possession of the boat, last thing you want is to be, oh man, that drawer doesn't fit. Like, I gotta find that plastic runner. Good luck. Or I gotta find that little, like the buttons that open and close it. Yeah, you can find them, but again, it's a pain in the ass. So if you can find something that mostly works in the boat, and if not, if you can, great. Good luck with that. But also if it doesn't, go back to the seller and just see who is going to be responsible for fixing these things, if they're willing to, and again, how that's going to reflect in the price. Try the air conditioner and water pump. Turn the water on, off, Make sure that it's producing hot water, that the hot water heater, again, if it's equipped, that it's actually going to produce hot water. If there's a generator, fire up the generator, put a load on it. And like I say, don't be embarrassed to do this. When we bought our 400 sedan bridge in Michigan a number of years ago, I was well primed as to what to expect with that boat. So we went down. I actually made an offer on that thing online before we even went to look at the boat. So I made an offer, and through a broker, the broker says, yeah, seller, seems to be amiable to that. When can you get together? When can we get together and come take a look at the boat?
I got a call about a boat, Sea Ray 50. I want you guys' opinion on it.
What now?
So we went, took a look at the boat. We went out for a sea trial. Everything was golden. Really, we were really impressed with the boat overall. There was nothing really for me to complain about on that boat when we went to look at it. So after we came back from the sea trial, I said to the owner, it was through a broker, but the owner was there, the owner of the boat. And we stepped inside and I said, what can you tell me about the boat? And he's like, I said, hold on. I said, I probably know more about this boat than you do. Not his particular boat, but that model boat. I said, don't tell me anything good about the boat. Tell me what doesn't work. And he goes, nothing. And that boat was equipped with two toilets. I said, okay, both toilets flush and they work fine? Yeah. Sump pump? Yeah. 2 air conditioners, they work fine? Yeah, well, they were both running when we went there, so I could attest to that myself. I said, how about the little lights next to the toilet that show if the holding tank is empty, half empty, or full? He goes, that works. I said, come on. He goes, it does. Let's go look. So that was great, and everything worked fine. Perfect. I want to take a look down in the engine room. After the sea trial again, went down, climbing around, and that boat had one of the best engine rooms for that style, that size of boat, because it was wing doors that opened up in the salon. Pull the cover back, doors open, and there's those 2 big blocks. So I was down there without a word of a lie, at least 20 minutes. I was crawling under the engines, the generator, behind the generator, everywhere. And I'll never forget, I'm like, in there, and I spent my time, and I was sweating. It was a beautiful hot sunny day, summer day. And when I finally finished off what I was doing, I kind of looked up, and the salesman and the seller, they're both sitting up there, and they're kind of like, what is this guy doing? They couldn't believe how much time I was spending. And I found one little flaw, one little oil drip, which was ultimately overcome. But I pointed out to the seller, and I said, what's going on here? Oh, I don't know. I said, well, that looks like it's been there for a while, and it's a reoccurring situation. He's like, I don't know. And then the salesman's doing one of these, time to go. But anyways, like I said, we overcame that, and there was not an issue. It wasn't a problem. But I was not embarrassed, even though I was getting these somewhat intimidating stares. It's like, what the hell's taking this guy so long? I was not intimidated to crawl around under those engines, over those engines, look at all the systems that I could see down there, because I was so happy that we were going to be buying that boat anyways.
I can feel it. I can feel
You
that.
can feel that, yeah. Okay, now we're running. Let's go down to the engine compartment, see what we find down there. Ooh, we got lights going and everything.
And the bilge is dry. We have 2 beautiful. Look at the size of that Jenny. My 350 isn't as big as that Jenny.
Starboard 454. Port side 454. Woohoo! Lights, camera, action! And so I did my due diligence to make sure that everything presented well. And we made an offer, and we bought the boat. And the rest is history. No, it isn't. It's a 20-minute video on my channel. I'm going to leave a link down in the description. If you haven't seen it, it was an adventure. So hopefully you get a chance to look at that one. So lastly, something to look at when you're there looking at the boat. There's a lot of stuff that the photos won't necessarily reveal. For example, like say, make sure that everything is working. Absolutely, you're gonna have to take the boat for a sea trial. Probably most sellers, brokers, and even private sellers won't want to do a sea trial with you until there's a deal in hand, and deposit's been made, and everything else has transpired, and then the sea trial takes place where you can actually take the boat out on the water and test to make sure that's it's going to run fine, that it is running fine. But what you can do before the sea trial even happens, even on your first trip to go see that boat, that first visit, you can still play with the shifter. Don't break anything because you haven't bought the boat yet. So just try the shifter in and out of gear. If it feels like it's click click click, the throttles up and down, the switches at the helm, does the blower come on? You don't necessarily have to start the engines, but you probably should or you want to. Make sure the blower works, bilge pump, the lights in the cabin, lights on the radar arch. There's a spotlight on the deck of the boat, your running lights, of course. Anything else, just try it and see if it works. I'm not saying that everything has to be 100% when you're going to look at a boat or you're buying a boat, because trust me, you're going to find a lot of things that are not necessarily 100%, which you will end up wanting to fix or have to fix. But as many of these things as you can tick off the box, even if it's not going to be covered by the seller. The seller says, well, you know what, light bulb's burnt out. Nah, I don't feel like fixing that, so you're going to have to do it yourself. Or even a water pump. You turn on the water and it goes, and you'll say, well, maybe it needs a water pump. And if the seller says, well, no, it works fine for me, just have it in your mind that at some point, probably that season, put in your mind, there's $150, $200 for a water pump, maybe hiring somebody or have to do the work yourself. At least you are prepared mentally that those items are going to come up. Like say if you have a generator, absolutely start the generator, run it, try to put a load on it. And when I say for the less initiated, when I say put a load on it, it means shut the shore power off, start the generator, let it run for a little while, switch it over to generator AC power, and then turn on the air conditioner, turn on the stove, turn on any high draw items, and just make sure that the generator can keep up with it.
Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
It should, but also take a look at the generator. I'm going to refer once again to the boat that we just sold. It came factory equipped with a 7 kilowatt Westerbeek generator, and when we did our sea trial of that boat, when we initially bought the boat, fired up the generator, and guess what? The water pump was leaking. Water was just pissing out of it. Showed it to the salesman, the broker who we were buying it through, who it was listed with the seller. Brought it to his attention. I said, that's going to be fixed. They were good enough. They credited us back the money for the pump. I said, I'll do all the work myself. I just want to make sure that you guys are going to cover that, which they did. The boat that we had prior to that, same deal. Took it out for a sea trial, put on the generator, ran the generator. The water pump's gone because water's just dripping out. So I brought that up with the salesman or the seller because that was a private sale. And I said, we're going to have to fix that. We came to an agreement and everybody's happy. So like I say, these are not necessarily things that you have to, get into a fight with a seller or the broker when you go in to look at a boat. Just try to make yourself more familiar and aware. All right. If you're on that boat, you stepped on it, you saw the photos online or the YouTube videos or whatever that the seller had available to you, you looked at it and said, this is a nice boat. Everything seems to be there and everything seems to be present and accounted for. When you get to the boat, you're putting actual eyes on it, and you can, try the cushions of the upholstery, make sure that they're not starting to rip or crack or whatever. But also when you're opening and closing doors, and when you are trying the toilet, trying the water, running the engines, you can hear these creaks and grunts and groans that no video is going to show you. Sorry, no photo is going to show you. And of course, when a salesman is doing his walkthrough video, he probably doesn't even show the engine running. So you're going to have to put your ears and eyes on these things just to confirm yourself that it seems like, if not a good deal on this boat, a deal that you would be willing to work with.
I'm doing this as a favor to John, and I don't need another headache. So do we got a problem here?
No, sir. I'm buying a boat.
And if that deal doesn't come together and you have to walk away from it, don't be emotionally attached to it. Just say, nice boat, it's just not our boat. Okay, we've walked away from a number of boats in the past. If you watch my other videos, you'll see, you've heard me talk about this, and just like, yeah, no. Or you get onto it and you do a touchy-feely thing, and it's just not happening. Okay, no harm, no foul. Thank you for your time. Not interested, or I'll get back to you, or whatever. Go and move on to the next one. Because whatever boat you buy is going to be a big investment for anybody. Boats aren't cheap. Beyond the initial purchase price of the boat, there's going to be the upkeep, slip fees, marina fees, repairs, insurance. So it's a big investment for anybody. It doesn't matter where you are on the economy scale. A boat is a huge investment. So try to find something that is, if it's not perfect, at least it's something that you can work with. Okay, this video is running long, I can tell. But yeah, so that's it for this one. And a couple other thoughts popped into my otherwise vacuous brain. And so I will be following up with more videos in the future. And as always, look forward to your comments. Let me know if you have had similar experiences, good or bad. I'd love to hear from you. Say, yeah, Paul, you know what? I found this boat online. It looked really good on the pictures and whatever else that the seller was sharing. We went, looked at it. Beautiful. We made a deal. We own the boat. We love it. Awesome. I would love to hear that, because they're not all bad deals. Like I said, we've had 6 Sea Rays so far. We've loved every one of them. Love them to death. And again, looking forward to loving the next one. But if you got that good story, great. If you had a bad one, either that you went and looked at it and the boat was it was not what it was presented, let us know in the comments, and any details would be fantastic, because others who are watching the video, hopefully you guys are looking down in the comments and seeing what people are saying and seeing what my replies, especially if people have a question about something. So that's it. I will look forward to all these comments. I will look forward to getting back to you on all these comments, and I will see you on the next one. Happy boat shopping. Cheers.